All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Podcast, the world's greatest podcast. We've got an interesting episode today with Jolene from Rebel Bee. My son and I should say, have been snacking on Rebel Bee quite a bit over the past several months as we've been growing with Pod Foods and Rebel Bee. But wanted to hear straight from Jolene. Welcome to the Podcast. Love to hear more about the brand, the origin story of the brand, and where you're headed next. It's a really neat concept. It's a category that has had a lot of innovation, but I don't think anyone's doing exactly what you're doing either. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for having me here. And I'm happy to hear what you just said about you and your son. That makes me so happy. We love when kids love us, that's for sure, because they're really honest and they tell the truth.
Yeah.
But anyway, I am Jolene Rivera. I'm the founder of Rebel Bee Sweets. Rebel Bee honey gummies are a real food gummy made with honey and without refined sugar, corn syrup, or glucose syrup, which is really important. Our gummies are offering nutritious, healthy energy to natural energy instead of just empty calories. So Rebel Bee Sweets is really a perfect crossover of a nutritious option for athletic, active lifestyles in a convenient snack form. So we have called ourselves gummies. We've called ourselves a healthy honey fruit chew. We are a real like I said, a real food product. You know, one of our gummies has pomegranate, Mexican vanilla, saffron, honey, and beet powder. And the other one is tart cherry and blue oyster mushroom and honey. The interesting thing about our gummies is that honey is the very first ingredient on the back of our label. That's really important to us. We put honey first, and we believe that functional foods offer more than basically anything else that you could put in candy. Most candies are empty calories. Even in the better for you category, they all say better for you, but you're literally eating nothing. It's just filling.
Right. Well, there's a difference between better for you and actually good for you, right? So if your product can actually be good for you, that's a step further.
Yeah.
And you're true to what you say to be, right? If you're saying that you're a honey gummy, honey's got to be at the top of the ingredient list, and you're doing it right.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, honey's a functional food. So for anyone who is not listening, functional foods have benefits beyond their nutrition. Honey is full of enzymes and natural vitamins and things like that. But honey is also anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and antibacterial. We produce our gummy at a level that we fold in the honey so that we're not heating it so high that it kills those properties. That was really important for us, and that was a painstaking process in getting this done. If you can believe it or not, I produce these gummies in my kitchen. I do all the formulations here at home first. I'm not a formulator, so I'll give you a little background, but I'm actually a 20-year creative director. So I spent 20 years creating brands for other people, extending brands, working for Fortune 100 companies, and being a consultant or a creative director in any way, shape, or form. I also worked in the food industry. I reported food with my business partner, reported food trends as it hit the restaurant industry across the United States. And we would report those trends to companies like US Foods and tell them what's important, what's going to be happening in food, and what they should pay attention to. Doing all of that work and then also training for a triathlon, I became sick And in 2014, 2016, I could not figure out what was going on with my body. The harder I trained, the worse I felt, the more inflamed I became, the weight was coming on. It was kind of ridiculous because I thought, how am I running 5 miles, swimming to and biking home and gaining weight? It just seemed ridiculous. So I met a 25-year MD and a functional medicine specialist who took my blood, and he said, you have insulin resistance, and most would call you type 2 diabetes. So he actually put me on a food program, which I love. I always say that he wrote me a food prescription.
Hmm.
And that was the day I learned that food is medicine. And during that process, I reversed my insulin resistance just using food. I'm not a health nut. I mean, I believe in health and wellness. So health is eating healthy. Wellness is having a bowl of ice cream that makes me feel good. So,
Right.
but during this process, I was told to stay away from refined sugar. It's very inflammatory. And when you're training for a triathlon or running or being active in any way, inflammation is the root cause of all injury and illness. And so I started looking for things that had just maple syrup or just honey as sweeteners, and I really couldn't find it. And as a honey lover, and my family's a honey lover, my grandfather's a honey lover. My grandfather used to tell me that he thought honey was candy when he was a baby. So that was all, all of this stuff sort of was this perfect kind of triangle for coming together and me saying, well, how can I, if it's not out there, I can't find it. How can I have a sweet snack that my, doctor at the time would approve? And I thought if I needed it, then other people would need it. And then that's how Rebel Bee Sweets was born.
So you're approaching it from a problem solving standpoint early
Mm-hmm.
on, right? Which is, I think, a lot of the best CPG brands that end up being really successful have that approach, right? There is a clear problem, you identified the problem, and you created a product as a solution to that problem. And I think you're right. Not everyone has had that same epiphany or that same realization that you've had, but everyone's impacted by inflammation. Everyone's
Yeah.
impacted by the negative impacts of refined sugars, right? So that's a universal, whether people are thinking about it or not, it's a universal. And if people feel better, they're likely to keep buying the products after they give them a shot initially.
I mean, to me, I think the benefit of it is that you're eating something that very much resembles candy.
Mhm.
And you know that you're also eating something that actually has some nutrition as well. It's not just empty calories. And it's really it's only 80 calories for the whole bag. So
Yeah.
people often say, "Wait, what?" When
Yeah.
I tell them that, it's literally, I think, guilt-free if that matters. I basically eat what I want when I want and try not to think too much about that kind of stuff. But I do believe that uh, there are a lot of people who just really feel like I do. I want to have what I want to have, but I also want to make sure that I'm just not eating junk, or I'm not eating red, 40, blue 1, yellow 5,
Right.
corn syrup, glucose syrup.
Right.
I hate the term natural flavors. That drives me crazy.
Right.
I think we've lost trust, in the public because of that term, organic, natural flavors,
Yep.
all of that stuff.
Yep.
So,
So let's talk a little bit about the flavor development too. So you mentioned, the flavors are interesting. I mean, it's not only the honey story, which is interesting too, but you've got cool ingredients in there. So if saffron is got a very distinct flavor, and it's if you're doing it right, which I think you are,
mhm.
it's that je ne sais quoi that people would really like. So how did you land on the SKUs that you landed on? Like that must have been a journey in and of itself.
Um, it's interesting. I wanted our I wanted our products to stand out, of course. And really just I knew that just being honey first would make them stand out already. I knew that just using honey as the sweetener would make us stand out. However, I personally, being reporting on the restaurant industry, I love good flavor combinations. And I've learned over 20 years, I've learned from cooks and food makers and food stylists and chefs that when you use real food, you don't have to cover up any shitty ingredients, sorry,
Yeah.
uh, with fake flavors. So real food combination can be incredible, and that's what I really set out to do. I mean, it's just flavors that I would love, something that hits a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, and I do think whether consumers are familiar with all of those ingredients or not, if it tastes good, people will resonate with that, right? So they
Yes,
might not understand exactly where all of those flavor components are coming from.
right.
Just like when they go to a fine dining restaurant, they might not understand exactly how the chef made what he or she made, but if it tastes great, it tastes great, and people will resonate with that.
I mean, I tried to name them the flavor names with something that would ring true, with kids too, because that's
Yeah,
important to me.
yeah,
This pomegranate Mexican vanilla saffron, they don't care. But the name of it is called Poma Punch because it
right,
does
right,
resemble punch. And our other
yeah,
flavor, while it has mushrooms in it, people always stop me and say mushrooms. And mushrooms are very sweet and
yeah.
they have nutrition. So I needed another sweet, I wanted to make it really sweet. So this wild child cherry, it's just something that resonates, I think, with kids and young adults, which is really who we're going after too.
So what are your aspirations for the brand? I mean, you're in this industry like all of us. There's all sorts of headwinds to overcome and hurdles to overcome
Yep.
in CPG. You've got a good product. Where do you want this to be over the next few years? And what types of retailers are you looking at? And how do you want your company to be seen a few years from now?
I mm, There's so many things in that. We're about 18 months old, so we're not even quite 2 years old. So I think that's important for me to mention
Yeah.
because I think when you're a brand new brand like us, you sort of are finding your footing, meaning you can go into stores and be great here and not so great there.
Yeah.
And so I know who my target audience is, and actually they've come to me. It's great because when your target market fit finds you, there's nothing better than that. Um, but also, I said earlier, we rarely we talk about being a healthy honey fruit chew. We rarely use the word candy.
Yeah.
Yet we do hang with other candy. We also hang in with energy bars because a lot of people like us as natural energy. Honey is natural energy.
Yeah.
It's a perfect balance of glucose and fructose to titrate out and sustain you as opposed to the spike that you get from sugar. And then we also could hang in the fruit chew aisle with the snacks
Yeah.
because we are a healthy honey fruit chew. So if I'm being honest, we're really just trying to find our footing still in that category. And a lot of times because I think we're kind of really the first crossover gummy who can sort of cross all three of those areas. And I think because of that, we even have stores say to me, "Where do you want me to hang you?"
Yeah. But that, if you look backwards in hindsight, this is true when I was at Whole Foods also as a retailer. A lot of the best products, a lot of the brands that have gone on to become household names went through that iterative process early on.
Hmm.
And a lot of the best products, the ones that are the most disruptive, are the ones that are hardest to categorize, and they are crossovers. And so you'll see some retailers selling something in produce and dairy or grocery, and or the specialty department, and they're figuring out how to optimize it right along with you as a brand,
Yep.
that usually means you're onto something, as opposed to you're just a me too, you're just another brand that's very similar to what's already out there.
I appreciate that. We have a lot of specialty stores I think that we could go into. We've never been at Fancy Food Show yet. It's important, I think, to mention because this was a real defining moment for me. Rebel Bee Sweets was awarded the Queen's Choice Award by the National Honey Board. When I first launched Rebel Bee Sweets, that I'm going to be honest, I'm working, my honey purveyor is part of the honey board. I mean, she's a member. She's not on the board. She doesn't make those decisions, but she's, she's a honey maker in Colorado and she's part of that, she's a bee certified corporation and she's part of that group. And I actually took our gummies to her because I wanted to know what she thought. And I wanted to honor the honey industry. So getting that award, they basically said, we've never seen anything like you. If they feel like they've been waiting 40 years for something like this, which I
Awesome.
loved. And to me, that was getting the endorsement from them, getting them behind us, having an offer where they said, if you ever need honey, we have plenty for you, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
And we've been nominated 3 times Most Innovative Product, once by the Gamma Awards last year. They told us that out of 43 countries, we are the only honey gummy that they've seen. So that was really important. And just recently, we went into a bunch of colleges and universities. So I really think that going after some of the kids where they are now, the Gen Z, and even some boarding schools where we can tap into the Gen Alpha generations, I think that's really important. We went into
yeah,
University of Hartford, Boston University, NYU, Fordham, Northeastern University, Providence College. So
that's awesome.
it's been so exciting. Every day I get an email that we've gone into about 10 more colleges and universities. We're
I
starting on
think
the
that's
East Coast.
brilliant. Like when I went to Boston University, when I was there, I wish that I could have had this type of a product then, and I think it shows you, first of all, it shows you the evolution of generationally, the evolution of consumer palate for the better. And then you're ahead of that curve if you're targeting that, because those are going to be consumers for life if you're building those bonds now. So
Agree. I actually met with some of the students at some of these universities and had some taste tests happening. And I actually reached out to the chancellor of food at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He actually was a subject that we interviewed when we were reporting food stuff for US Foods. He runs a $90 million a year food program, and it's considered the #1 food program in the United States for the 8th year in a row. And Rebel Bee Sweets is part of that food program. And I'm the pride that I have in that, knowing how hard that is, having reported on the food industry for so long. It really just it was a moment where I wanted to literally pop a bottle of champagne because I thought we have really experienced food people and chefs eating our gummies and really enjoying them. I mean, we're actually in the restaurant industry and they're using our gummies as garnishes on non-alcoholic cocktails. So
that's a good sign, right?
mhm.
Well, we could go on. I think this is really exciting. One of the things that I tend to say, I'd love to, let's circle back. Let's do another episode in a year or two and let's measure how far you've come. I think you're going to be doing really well. We're excited to be working with you at Pod Foods. I think we're going to see a lot of growth
Thank you.
together, and we wish you all the best. I think you're going to have a really interesting couple of years in front of you.
I hope so. I'm excited about it. Every day it's something new. So I appreciate you guys having me and being able to just gush about Rebel Bee. I feel so lucky right now. So I appreciate it.